Hi everyone, my name is Jake Smeester. I'm the creative content specialist for Amazon Cimmerian, and I think my title actually says technical content developer, so kind of a similar title. But today joining me is a very special guest all the way from Bangalore, India, Saira Sheikh. Welcome, Saira. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jake.
I looked it up, how far away Bangalore is from Seattle, and it is over 8,000 miles, which is pretty insane. So that also means that you are in the middle of the night. I believe it's about 1:30 over there. I don't know how there's also a 12 and a half hour time difference. That's confusing to me. But thank you so much for joining in the middle of the night, for coming on and showing us some of the cool stuff that you've created.
Thanks, Jake. It was my pleasure. I learned Sumerian watching your Twitch videos, so it's glad to finally have a Twitch presentation with you.
Right, great. Yes, it's awesome to have you. Saira has also been really helpful in contributing content, and she's written, I'm going to pull up a few different articles that she's written, and I was actually editing and working on a third, and so that'll be your third article that has come out, contributing to the documentation site, so also thank you for that. So she has been a great contributor to the Cimmerian community, both kind of by creating demos and working in the Mumbai Summit, I believe, is where you presented, as well as, again, on the content page here.
Yep.
So while I'm doing that, I'll put down a couple of these. What are we talking about today? A virtual banking assistant. Walk us through what it is, if you give us just a little bit of the backstory of why you created this demo and kind of how it came to be. Just take a minute or two to describe that, and then we can jump into the demo itself.
Yeah, sure. So I've been working for banking industry for a long time. So I've been working on IT section of the bank. So I realized that a lot of bankers, when you walk into branch, so their efforts are spent on some tasks which I think can be automated to improve their efficiency. Also, if you want to operate in a different country, so you need to have the physical presence of the bank in the country. And for example, let's say you speak only French and you travel to some European countries and you need to go for a bank assistant. And then it will be very difficult, they can't understand, what you are speaking. Mm-hmm. So those are the thoughts. And also there is no way right now at the branch to improve the, how they are doing and what they can improve and how much value add they can do. If, for example, someone calls you for a lost card, if you ask them 10 questions, they obviously get irritated. So why to ask them based on customer emotion, let's take them right into the action. So those are the thoughts made me develop this POC or an application. Mm-hmm. So basically this was developed using Sumerian as a front end and integration with AI technologies like recognition, translate, Lex, Poly, DynamoDB, and a lot of other stuff. And there is one cool thing about is that web RTI integration, that is, when you say bank, right, they are very fanatic about the security. Just providing the user ID and, password is not enough. You need to have a second level of authentication that is against your face. So those are the thoughts made me develop this application.
Yeah, and I really love, the few things that are really kind of stick out, like you said, are just kind of the ability to translate and reach multiple geographical regions and languages. The security, of course, is probably number one. But also just, the feedback, being data driven and gathering as much data and feedback as you can, where you can't really do that in a bank, in a physical bank. I can imagine you running out of somebody chasing you down, trying to get you to fill out a survey card. That's just not really a practical application or a practical thing that's ever going to happen. So what you've really put into this is pretty cool. If you don't mind, let's unless there's anything else to chat about before, let's jump into the actual demo.
Sure. Let me load the scene.
Want to validate them now?
So I just loaded my scene.
Yep.
So I'm pressing tab. So you can see that it's capturing the web, like the camera feed and displaying on the screen. And if I move my head, the host moves its head as well. So it's not like you're talking to a chatbot. It basically, all these interactions are driven based on the emotions, which you can see here.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of point out what you're saying is that as you move back and forth, the point of interest of the Cimmerian host is tracking. So you move left, her eyes kind of follow. Move right, her eyes also follow. That's really cool. That's actually, as we were going through the demo, I didn't notice the emotion. That's actually, that's pretty amazing.
That's a cool part. It's AWS AI recognition technology is used here. So if you do any of these transactions, it's not just for the initial phase. So each transaction when you are doing, it will keep a note of what was your emotion. So later we can use comprehend to increase, improve the efficiency of those transactions. So I'm just going to say tab out and I'm going to validate. So it asked me when I loaded the screen that you want to validate your details. So I'm going to say sure.
Please provide your customer ID.
1.
Please say the 4-digit year in which you were born.
1976.
Please say the 4-digit passcode you have set to log in online.
1234.
Welcome, Saira Sheikh. Thanks for the verification. Our records indicate that your A to Z review is pending. To finish your A to Z review, you can say complete my A to Z review now, or you can say not now.
Not now.
How can I help you today?
So basically when we provided those initial details, it validated them and it went to recognition to compare the face which is seeing.
Right.
So once it is validated, so basically what I noticed is that most of the bankers spend a lot of time on completing this A to Z review and recommend goals. So when you walk into a branch, they spend a lot of effort on that part. So if we can
so for some people that might not be as familiar with kind of the banking background, what is an A to Z review?
It's like your KYC, know your customer or all your details. You have to finish your KYC. It's a mandatory to do banking with any thing, like any bank.
Okay.
And later if you update your details, you need to keep your details up to date at the bank to reach them out or, give you any suggestions, kind of stuff. So I'm going to do a basic thing now, that's the recognition part. I want to show you one more cool thing is the recommend goals for me. So I'll show you, then I'll explain how it is built. Recommend goals for me.
Certainly. Based on your age and income, recommended goals for your house, vehicle, studies.
So it goes through the database and finds your age and income. And based on that age and income grouping, it will recommend the goals. So just want to show that, for example, if you are traveling and you want to know, Chinese, recommend goals for me. So it's not just speaking that text, it's not a word-to-word translation. It takes the entire sentence, it converts it into a meaningful sentence in the destination language which we selected here. And it speaks with the accent. That's a good part about it. So we can change the host voice to speak in a different accent. So I'm going to try one more language, Japanese. Recommend goals for me.
キャッ 確かに、あなたの年齢と収入に基づいて、あなたのための推奨目標はいえ、別かける研究です。
So that's the recognition part. So I'm going to say, like, for example, I want to open a new account. Open new account.
Which type of account you want to open? You can say savings or current account.
So basically you already have an account and you logged in, and on top of it you want to open additional accounts. So it's banks don't take, usually once you are a banking customer, they don't ask you a lot of details if you want to open another savings or on top of that another current account.
So we have a lot of chat in the chat room, which is great. And I just want to kind of fill in people. I guess maybe I'll wait till she's done. Okay. All right, she's done talking. Some people are just asking, like, what is the topic? So I just want to fill people in that might just be joining us. We are welcomed by Sarah Sheikh, or we are welcoming Sarah Sheikh here to join us. She's all the way over in India. I am in Seattle, so that's why you might see a different setup here in terms of the studio setup. And Sarah created a banking demo to create a virtual banking assistant using Amazon Cimmerian and Cimmerian hosts. It first starts by doing facial recognition for security clearance and to make sure that there is like multiple ways of authentication for users that are trying to access this application. And then it allows you to have different types of conversations and check different like bank accounts and transfers and do a lot of different activity using voice-based interactivity and interaction. One of the questions that we have here is, does it support Hindi? And I believe it does.
Yes.
Somebody's asking if you could demonstrate that.
Yeah, this was launched just 2-3 days before AWS Summit, so incorporated that as well. So I'll just show you.
Sure, thank you.
Recommend goals for me.
निश्चित रूप से आपकी उम्र और आय के आधार पर आपके लिए अनुशंसित लक्ष्य घर वे चिचले अध्ययन कर रहे हैं.
So yes, it does.
That's awesome. That's really great. So that's one of the newer languages. Interesting. Yeah, and that's one thing that's cool is that, this is using Amazon Polly, and Amazon Polly is, they are a separate service, but it integrates directly into Cimmerian, and they are always releasing new voices. So it's kind of cool to see the different stuff that's coming out on their side. Okay. Good.
So shall I continue with the demo, or you have?
Yeah, please. Yep, please do.
Yep. So I'm going to open a new account. Open new account.
Which type of account you want to open? You can say savings or current account.
Savings.
Congratulations. Your new savings account is opened successfully.
So it basically opened a new account on my behalf. So I'm going to say transaction history. I want to see last 5 transactions. Transaction history.
Please provide the account number.
1.
Here is your transaction history.
So you can see the transaction history displayed here. Up to 5 transactions.
Cool.
So I'm going to hide it. Hide transaction history.
Sure.
And then I'm going to do some funds transfer. Funds transfer.
How much you want to transfer?
123.
From which account you want to transfer the funds?
1.
Which account you want to transfer the funds to?
3.
Which account you want to transfer the funds to?
3.
Sorry, I could not understand. Goodbye.
Okay, I think I need to reload it, so it could not understand. So give me a minute, I'm reloading it. So meanwhile, when it opened the account, so I want to show you that it sent a account opening email, and there would have been a entry created in the database accounts table. So you can see this is the account number and customer ID.
Yeah. So,
And
and one of the things that people were commenting is on when you entered in your password, people were entering in some funny comments in the chat room. But of course, this is not a real account. You are simulating this by using DynamoDB as the database to hold all this information. And that was another one of the questions we just have by Enrique. Thank you for joining, Enrique. Asking about where actually all this information is stored, and of course the answer is DynamoDB, which was one of the better options, or really good option to use with Cimmerian. So is now a good time to kind of show us a little bit what's happening on the back end inside of DynamoDB?
Yeah, sure. So basically it is using Lex. So for example, when I say account opening, so I'm just asking the account type, and then it calls a Lambda function. And you can see in the Lambda code what it does. So it creates a record and it sends an email. So that's about it, and it also logs in audit trail. So every transaction is whatever the customer is doing, everything is logged in audit trail table. So today is 14th, right? So all the data is logged in the DynamoDB table. And account opening, where is the customer account? So here is the account. So this is the account got opened, and I just show you this email. I just got this email at 1:45. So this is the new account opened. So everything goes through Lex, then Lambda, and then it gets stored in DynamoDB.
And so one of the questions we have here, and I'm attempting it, and I think I have the right answer. And so maybe you can help. One of the questions is, can you only input in English?
At this moment, yes, we can, because I haven't implemented transcribe yet.
Okay.
So I implement only translate, which is text to.
Sorry, go ahead. I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
If I implement transcribe, then yes, we can do it. So right now, I haven't implemented that.
Okay, so that's a possibility. It just hasn't been added yet. I think, and this is where I'm just clarifying. I think by default, Lex is limited to currently English.
Yes.
On its own.
Yes, Lex accepts only English and provides only English.
But you can use other services to change the input. Okay.
So that's what we do in Sumerian. Once we get the text back from Lex, we convert it into the different language and present it to the user.
Gotcha. Right. Okay. Cool.
So, do you want me to continue with the demo?
Yep. Please continue.
Sure.
Please provide your customer ID.
1.
Please say the 4-digit year in which you were born.
1976.
Please say the 4-digit passcode you have set to log in online.
1234.
Welcome, Saira Sheikh. Thanks for the verification. Our records indicate that your A to Z review is pending. To finish your A to Z review, you can say complete my A to Z review now, or you can say not now.
Not now.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Not now.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Not now.
How can I help you today?
I want to stop my check.
What is the account number for the associated check number?
1.
What is the check number you want to stop?
9. For the demo purpose, I made it very simple, like the account number and the
Place
customer
request
ID.
to stop your check.
So
Yeah.
it stopped my check.
Cool.
So for example, I want to order a new checkbook. I need a new checkbook.
What is the account number you want to place checkbook request for?
1.
I have placed the request for your checkbook.
So it would have sent me this. It will take a couple of minutes to reach. So I'm going to say bye.
Thank you for banking with us. Please rate your experience to help us serve you better. You can rate 1 to 5, 1 being highly satisfied and 5 being not satisfied.
1.
Thank you for banking with us. Please rate your experience to help us serve you better. You can rate 1 to 5, 1 being highly satisfied and 5 being not satisfied.
1.
Thank you for feedback. Have a good day.
So it records all these things here. In the feedback table, it would have recorded the feedback. And in the audit trail table, all this log in, log out, and
Very
the
cool.
user emotions, customer ID associated. So that's
What?
pretty much about the demo.
Great. One of the questions we just had was, could user inputs be used to trigger workflows in external systems like a CRM, maybe like a Salesforce type application? I know this is kind of just out of nowhere, but is that a possibility to start connecting to non-AWS services?
Not sure. I'm
Not sure.
not
Okay.
sure.
Okay. Good question. Good question. From Tech Sale. Okay, so yeah, if you want to now jump into kind of walk us through a little bit, like, okay, what's actually happening here? So we've seen the demo.
Yeah, sure.
Now let's look at what is actually happening.
Sure. So before we go in there, so these are the emails for the transactions which I just did.
Oh, right.
Okay. And I'm going to show you a little
Confirmations.
bit about the architecture. So we are using this microphone input, and then we are using Cognito for authentication. So Sumerian can talk to all these services. And then we're using WebRTC API to capture the camera feed and show it on the screen and capture the user like streaming. And then we are calling recognition to detect the emotions, user emotions, and after user provides the details to compare the face against the database, DynamoDB to store all the data, and S3 to store the user profile images. So basically, if you look at the table, customer table, it's just for demo purpose, so I have only one record here. So this is the image name, site.jpg, and there will be a bucket name.
So this is the image that it's referencing when it's
Yeah, so this is the bucket name
initiated.
and the image name which it references. And then we have translate. Whatever text is coming from Lex, we are converting that English text to the user selected language. And we have Lex and Poly to interact with the, chatbot kind of functionality. In
Right.
Lambda to fulfill all the, sorry.
And one thing I want to point out, and I'll post in the chat room in a second, is that kind of from the user to the web audio API to capture and process mic inputs. You mentioned this before we actually went on, is that Sarah used an article that is available, and I will post that, that kind of helps users get started with capturing audio using that little mic button that you saw down there in the bottom corner. and also doing the Amazon recognition part. And so that was not something that was done completely on her own, but there's some documentation already out there for doing that. So I'm going to post that. Go ahead. I'm going to post that in the Twitch chat room. So for people that are interested in kind of getting started with at least that part, there is a lot of code. If you look at that, there is quite a bit of code. And I've also asked Sarah if she was interested in writing another article to simplify that process. So she said she would. Hopefully we can get that done. But I'm not going to hold you to it right now because it's in the middle of the night and you're doing a demo. Okay, so great. So we talked about Amazon Lex, Amazon Poly, Lambda, and then
we have SES to send the email, and again DynamoDB to store all the data. So this is the high-level architecture of this application. So if we go into the Sumerian code, so this is the these are the scripts which are used in this application. So you can see that JS feet and JS frontal face, these are the JavaScript files, that is WebRTC, to capture the stream that is connecting to your web camera. And this is the rate at which the face detection should happen, and the host, like for example you are moving your face and how much host should rotate. And this is the integration with Lex. So I showed you this Lex part, right? So this is the Lex bot name and the alias. So this is the configuration for that. And this is a microphone input which I just talked. That's the first point in the PPT. This is the microphone input. And there is a speech script and there are utils. And also there is a initialization. So for example, you are using this from a laptop or a different screen resolution. You can have your own, if you see my screen, so it's not like organized. So because what you see is not exactly what you get. It's very good to have a control in the code to place the host and POI and every object at certain location. Will not get messed even if you move your mouse, like you move it right or left, it will not get distorted. So at runtime it takes the data from there and it shows the host and all this text and everything at a different location. So let me go into the code. So the entry point for this code is this.
I do want to ask you, Sarah, your list of available options. Did you say, maybe you mentioned this? Is that HTML?
Yeah, that's HTML.
Okay, so those aren't textures or quads or anything that are.
That's just a HTML. You can see these are the HTML. So I can show you when we get into the code. So yeah, so this is the HTML.
There it is. Okay, cool.
So these are the options. I'm going into the main script. So before going into the main script, I'll just let you go through the initialization part. So I talked about, so if it is a laptop, what is the configuration? And there is a POI, it's a point of interest. When you are moving the head, the host is moving its head based on the POI. So for that, I wrote this code and saw like how to, set it up and everything, camera and what is the minimum X, what is the maximum Y and top and bottom. All those details are here. Then in the main script, if we go, so these are the emotions. So for example, if when the host is seeing you, it greets you. Either it says nice to see you or some different text based on your positive or negative emotions. So if it is negative, then it will say, I hope your day is going great. If you are like falls under any of these positive emotions, it says nice to see you.
Oh, very cool.
And then there is code for sending the video frame. So basically, we created a blob to stream the data into like a worker class and a thread. So all this video frame to worker, so the stream is going and continuously it's going, and then we have a recognition part being called. So for identifying whether it's a human face or not, then to draw a bounding box around the face and to show the emotion. So all that code is written here. And if you are moving the host like face from right to left, then host is moving its head. For that the code is written over here. And these are the greetings based on the emotion. So it's a negative emotion or positive emotion. So then we have this translated text. So this is for converting the text English to different language. So we provided the drop down, right? So user is selecting the drop down. So for that drop down there is a value. So let me go to this speech file, then you will understand it better.
And you have you were saying earlier before that the code that is written there, the part of the script right there that deals with translation, that is in an article that you have already written, correct?
Yep.
And so I'm going to paste that also. I'm posting a lot of articles in the chat room, but you can, if you're interested in learning more about like just translating text inside of Cimmerian, there's a great article for that. We're also working on one like how to translate Lex responses. This one's just translating text inside of a scene. But there is shortly coming out another article that walks people through, written of course by Sarah, that walks users through how to translate Lex responses.
So here we are calling the speech controller. So it's a constructor for speech component. So when you are selecting the drop down, so it will based on the drop down has values like it's English, or for example let's take English. So the voice ID is Amy because it is speaking in the accent, right? So we have to give the voice ID also. Right. So that is what we are doing here. It's not just the text translation, we are setting the accent also. Right.
So maybe to expand on that a little bit, I'll just jump in, is that the way Polly is set up is that there are, I don't know, that it was something like around 50 or 55 voices, that covering about 27 languages. And so there are 27 languages, again, it's rough, thereabout. There could be a couple more, there probably are a couple more than that, languages, and then that many voices. So there are several languages have multiple voices, but if you use German for an English-based voice, then it's going to sound a little bit strange. And so you do need to make sure you match up your voice ID or with the correct the correct language ID with the correct voice. So that's something to keep in mind, is that Amy is not going to sound good if she's speaking Hindi, for example.
Yeah, sure. So we have Aditi for that. Yeah. So I'll just go back to main script. So here we are calling that, translate text. So we are just sending the source language English and target language to the user selected language. It converts the text to the selected language and it speaks. And then we have all the canvas, like when I say tab, you saw that small box on the left side which shows the camera feed to display that this is the code. So what it captures all the details about the face, about the quality and the emotion and everything. And this is the worker class which keeps on pulling the data from your camera input to the recognition scene. So this is the code for that, and analyzing the face, that is where we are detecting the emotions. And we are identifying whether it's a face or not. So that is a detect faces, and this is a get emotion, and this is the data for so get binary is the data for whatever you are seeing on the scene. Like for example, it's capturing the data from the web camera, so it has to convert it to base 64 in order to compare it against the S3 database, like what we have in the S3. So these are some functions for that. And so this is for the transaction history. We are showing the transaction history, direct call to the DynamoDB. We can use Lex also, but I did like this. And so on the Lex response, I am not like as you said, Jake. So once that there will be an article on this. So I'm not using a static state machine. So because of that, we get the freedom of processing the Lex response before presenting it to the user or before posting it to the Lex. So I am getting the on Lex response based on the data and the intent and the state. I am taking some actions. So for example, if it is a transaction history, then I am doing something inside Sumerian. So if it is a hide transaction history, I am clearing out that HTML. And if it is a login, that is like when initially it asked me for a couple of details. So after those details are provided, then it will check for the image. If it is matching, then this message will be displayed. If it doesn't match, then it will say it's not matching, please update your image. So these are the couple of code. And let me talk about the microphone input. Again, as I said, I don't want to be dependent on the default controls provided by Sumerian, because we'll be posed with you can't do what a lot of stuff around it. So that's the reason I wrote all these classes. When we are capturing the microphone input, you would have seen that the rings are coming, and we are capturing the audio recording and everything. So later at some point of time, if I want to implement transcribe, which is you can speak in any language, but it will identify based on, you don't have to specify the language also. So based on the language, it will identify which language you are speaking, and we can say convert it to English, so we can post it to Lex. So that freedom we'll get using this start microphone recording and stop microphone recording. So this is the code for that.
Gotcha. Seems like a decent amount of code for recording and recording audio.
Yes, but it gives you a lot of freedom on what you can do.
Right.
It's just one time if you write.
Yeah.
You can change it, because recently I implemented it for one of the other event where continuous listening, you don't, what if there is a screen and there is no touch or no keyboard or no mouse? Mm-hmm. How will you talk to the scene?
Mm-hmm.
So using this code, you just have to call, maybe you have to write 2 lines or 3 lines on top of it to continuously listen to you, and then, post it to Lex.
Right. So, and that's something we're seeing from a lot of customers too, is we want to have as few barriers to entry as possible. And so if there can be, that's one reason why Alexa and the Echo devices are so popular and exciting, is because it's just all voice based. It's making voice really the new UI, so you don't have to do anything. And that makes it much more accessible, a lot easier, and a lot less tricky to use. And so that is something we're seeing a lot from customers, is that as little interaction as possible, as little physical input as possible is really desirable.
Yeah. So, and there is a small class to when it is greeting you, what is the time of the day, and some common functions drawing that box around that and creating the camera feed kind of stuff. And then there is a Lex. So here we are not using a state machine, as I said, we are using system bus to emit these events, Lex response event and Lex query event.
That was going to be one of my questions. Do you have any state machine behaviors in this scene?
There is one small state machine behavior here. That's just to... One second. Actually, no. No.
Not really. So all of this is no state machine. That's impressive. That's really impressive. I know you are. I know you prefer to code, so I'm not too surprised either.
Because state machine again, you can't process it before it presents or before you post. So I'm just using this system bus.add listener. People who code, they will understand it's like creating a listener. It will listen to those events and respond when the event happens. So it's much better control over code.
Right, totally. That's true. I mean, state machines are great. If you're not familiar with how to script, it's a great tool, but it is more limiting. While scripting can be more complicated, but it opens more doors. So it's kind of just deciding which path makes more sense. Or you can use both. It's also possible to use both.
Yeah. So this is basically, I'm just, what happens when you query the lex. So that's what I'm setting here. So this is pretty much about the code, and I just showed you this. This is a placeholder for showing the transactions. These are the options in HTML. So yeah, that's about the code.
Nice. That is impressive and detailed, and I mean, one thing that's also just kind of sticks out is that it's really clean looking too. You did a really good job of just making it simple, easy to use, and very, very, very approachable. Again, I know that you pulled some of it or you got started with that article, but really amazing where you took it. You really took it and ran. That's
was a very good article, that concierge experience. That's a very good article. It has all this recognition and all the stuff in it, and it's a huge code to read and understand, but it's a very good starting point. If people know how to code, it's a very good starting point. You can just import it and look into the code and understand it and take what you want and write on top of it.
Right. No. And there's certainly parts to it that we would love to kind of break off and create some other content. So that's something we can look at going forward. I mean, we're getting, just saying, I know you don't have the Twitch chat room up in front of you, but getting a lot of great feedback. People are like, this is amazing. Cimmerian is just so easy to use and getting started with. And some people are very impressed with how good some of the voices sound, or especially, specifically Hindi. And some really great feedback here. We're having great conversations here in the chat room. So after we're done, you could actually go back and watch this video and see what people are saying.
Sure.
So that does that really cover? Is safe to say that covers most of the Sumerian side of what's happening?
Yeah, we cover Sumerian side and we showed the DynamoDB what is happening in the database.
Okay.
And
did we look at Lambda? Is that something we still need to look at?
There are a lot of Lambda functions. For each intent, there is a Lambda function. For example, lost card, there is a Lambda function. So whatever you see the available options, for each option, for example, I'll show you auto checkbook, there is a Lambda function.
So the intents being, if we could maybe go back to Lex if you don't mind.
Sure.
Just click over to Lex. And so an intent is really kind of like just like the name describes, like you're intending to try to accomplish something. So the intent could be, I lost my card and I want to solve that issue. So your intent is lost card, or you want to leave. So you could say bye, or pay bills. Like, so it's really kind of a branch of the larger conversation tree that you can go down. And so for each of those intents, why is it important to have a Lambda function in the fulfillment part? So after that intent has been filled, it triggers a Lambda function, as it looks like. And so what is the Lambda function doing?
So for each intent, the Lambda function is different. So for example, auto checkbook, it takes the details and it places a request in the database, and it sends an email, and it also adds to the audit trail database that customer has placed on a request for the checkbook. So for example,
it's taking the input and that was captured in Lex and sending it to Dynamo.
Yep.
Okay. So it is And for people that might not be familiar, Lambda is a serverless compute application that was launched, gosh, when was that? In 2012 or 13. So, a little bit ago, but it really, when it was launched, it really got popular right away because kind of this idea of serverless. And so it's one thing that I'm seeing a lot of times is that Lambda is kind of the, if you can get Lambda to do something, Lambda can connect with, don't quote me on this, but Lambda can connect with nearly, if not all, AWS services. So when you can kind of get something into Lambda or get to fire a Lambda function, it really just opens up the gates to access pretty much anything in Cimmerian. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's fairly accurate.
That's true. And it's serverless, so you don't need to run EC2 instances. It's only when you invoke it. And you can invoke multiple Lambda functions and they will all get fired separately. So that's the advantage of it. Okay, so these are the Lambda functions, as I said. So basically Lambda, as you correctly said, it writes to the database and it sends an email. So basically that's the main functionality after getting the data.
Gotcha.
And this is a database like DynamoDB. I used DynamoDB because you can use any other database as well. So these are the tables where it stores the customer accounts. So for ordering the checkbook, and there is a process check, this check has been stopped. And these are the transactions. And this is the A to Z review. So we haven't done the A to Z review part. So, and this is the audit trial table, and these are the feedbacks. Yep.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm just responding to some questions in the chat room. One of the questions was, so Cimmerian does the understanding of language and gets specifics and then triggers the intent Lambda service. So to clarify, Cimmerian really, and this is a lot of times what Cimmerian is kind of sold to be, is that it's the authoring tool to create 3D for either AR, VR, or just 3D applications. So this would fall in the 3D application. So it's a 3D character on a 2D screen, I guess is the best way to say it. But this could actually be a VR application, could be an AR application. It's just currently kind of set on a desktop monitor type application. But Cimmerian really is the authoring tool to create that 3D interface, which then, because it connects with all these other AWS services, allows you to work or integrate with a chatbot, allows you to trigger Lambda functions, which can write and read to DynamoDB services and tables. So it's really kind of like the front-facing user. It is the user interface that ties in all of these services together. So I was going to write all that out, and so instead, I'm just going to leave it at that. Getting a lot of good conversations in here. For me, I feel like that gives a really great overview of what you created, and really, really impressive. How long did it take you to build this? Maybe that's not a good question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
This I did it in 3 days.
3 days?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't know if that says a lot about Cimmerian or if it says a lot about you.
No, there was a lot of help from that scene, concierge scene.
Right, that article.
So I imported that and the rest of the functions to translate part, and I needed to figure it out how it works, but 3 days.
3 days, that's amazing. That's unbelievable. Very cool. Let's see. We have about 10 minutes left. But if there are is there anything else you want to cover? Is there anything else we need to look at before we sign off?
No.
Oh, no. I don't see any outstanding questions in the chat room. Of course, you can always find us on Slack. I don't know if are you on the Slack channel, Sarah? I'm putting you on the spot now. You're not on the Slack channel. I'm on the Slack channel. And so if people are out there have any questions regarding this episode or this demo, reach out to me and I can reach out to Sarah and we can kind of maybe answer any follow-up questions you might have. If you are interested in joining the Slack community, it is slack.cimmerian.world. You can join there. It's an open Slack community of getting close to 3,000 members, and so really great and thriving community. So lots of people are asking questions, and it's not meant to be necessarily a support place to get support, but you can actually get a lot of great support. And so if you're interested in Cimmerian and you want to learn Cimmerian, I would highly recommend you go to slack.cimmerian.world. Get involved with that community, because there's a lot of great people out there that there's a lot of people that work for Cimmerian or AWS that are in the Slack channel. But there's a lot of other people too that don't, and just also know really well and are really great at answering questions. So if you have any follow-up questions, please go to Slack and you can ask it there. Again, slack.cimmerian.world. I will put that in the channel or in the chat room, slack.cimmerian.world. And if there's nothing else, Sarah, thank you so much for, first of all, being such a great contributor to our doc site and writing some really good pieces, putting this demo together and kind of evangelizing Cimmerian and the other services involved. The Mumbai Summit, and I'm sure other places that will. I'm sure you are not done using this demo, and also joining us here in the middle of the night over there in India. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you.
Yeah, and so again, let's stay in contact. If there's other things that you come up with, I'm sure that you're working on a lot of things, and so let's keep chatting and let's get some other streams on the docket here soon.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you again to Sarah, and join us. We will be back next week, actually on Wednesday, for a demo that is how do you do dynamic, what is it called? Dynamic speech, not dynamic speeches, dynamic presentation loading. So some very cool stuff if you're interested in learning experience in design and instructional design. Next week and Wednesday is going to be a really great episode. So I hope you join us then. All right, thanks again, Sarah. Thanks everybody else for joining. We will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.